Welcome, everyone, to the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast. We have got some exciting things going on today. I always say that word exciting, but it is exciting. Really cool things happening. Very soon, we will be selling tickets for our boat giveaway. Now, this will be the 5th bass boat that I've actually given away. Every year, we give away a current year Nitro Z18. And this year's boat is absolutely beautiful. I've given them away 5 years in a row. And what we do is that is our main fundraiser for Well Spoken Ministries. And that is able to fund this podcast. It's able to fund the ministry that I do with the Bass Pros, as well as the various speaking engagements that I do all over the country. So when a church calls me up and says, hey, Chris, we can't afford you to come and speak to our church, but we really love for you to come and share the gospel with us. I'm there, and I can do that all because people support our boat giveaway. And that's going to happen in December. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. But very soon, we are going to be starting to sell tickets, and you can get your tickets at www.chriswells.org. Today's podcast is going to be a great one. I've got another guy from Tennessee. I'm telling you, if you're from Tennessee, you can be a bass fisherman. I'm telling you, this guy is great. Won his first 2 tournaments this year. He's fishing 122 tournaments, professional tournaments, finished in the money 91 times. Today, all the way from Fayetteville, Tennessee, Brandon Lester is going to be with us. Just won Pickwick, won Kissimmee earlier this year. Going to be an exciting time. So stay tuned on the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast, where faith and fishing hook up. I have as my guest today the one and only Brandon Lester. Brandon, how's it going, man?
Going good, Chris. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm doing super. I tell you what, you and I go way back. We've had a lot of guys from Tennessee. What is it about guys from Tennessee that can fish? I mean, this has got to be at least my 4th guy from Tennessee. I started noticing that. I'm like, man, I tell you, if you want to be a bass pro, you better move to Tennessee. That's all I got to say, man. Y'all have got it going on. I had old Buddy Gross on there, a few weeks back. And so it's been pretty cool. But how you been, man?
Been real good. A whole lot better since I got a hold of this thing right here behind me, for sure.
I'm telling you, you are on fire. This has got to be one of the best years, if not the best year of your entire career, man. I mean, you're on fire. Not only you won the Open and everybody, and you finally got to say, okay, I won one. And then you come back and then kill the blue trophy back there with the Elite Series win. Man, you're on fire. What's going on with you, man?
I don't know. Some people talk about momentum. Things are just going good. I'm at a good place on the water. I'm at a good place in life. Life is good right now, man. It's just going good. You know what I mean? You see so many times when guys start struggling on the water, maybe they're going through something or something like that. And I don't know, man. Just things have been going really good this year for me.
Man, I love it. I got a chance to room. I roomed with you a couple of times. I remember one time we were down we were up at St. Lawrence, and I know I can't talk about too much about St. Lawrence, but I did. I was rooming with you and Ott and Andy. You remember we got that big old house up there, and we were staying. And I've still got a video that I'm going to bribe Andy Montgomery with, because he was trying to hit a wasp nest with a jig. He was up there. We were kind of goading him on.
Yeah.
I think we all vowed to delete that video, but I still got a copy of it. I got a bootleg copy of them, but we've had a lot of fun. But one of the cool things this year, I got a chance to, to room with you up there in Palatka, and man, it was like therapeutic for me. I was kind of, in the middle of things going on with my wife and stuff. And I came in every day and you just let me talk. And I appreciate you doing that, man. That's the deal. Even though Jay Kumar says I talk way too much, but that's probably true. But anyway, hey, tell us a little bit about how you started fishing and how you made your way as a professional bass fisherman. What was your journey like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up just like a lot of young kids, you know, just loving the outdoors. I was introduced to my dad, my granddad. Grew up just fishing farm ponds around Tennessee, creeks, rivers, really anywhere that we could fish. That's where we would fish. And you know, kind of from the time that I understood that you got to get a job when you grow up. You gotta make a living somehow, right? And of course, I grew up watching Bill Dance, Hank Parker, Roland Martin, Jimmy Houston. I watched all those guys. I watched the Bassmasters religiously as a kid. Didn't miss it. Um, so that's where I really got my start, you know. And I knew in the third or fourth grade, I told my teachers in elementary school, I want to be a pro bass fisherman one
Wow.
day. I had no idea. I had no idea what that meant at the time, you know, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. So you know, get through elementary school. I've loved fishing ever since I can remember. I couldn't imagine my life without it. They didn't have high school fishing. I graduated in '06, and it came about probably in about '08 or '09. High school fishing did, but I did fish in college. I went to the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga,
Right.
fished on the collegiate fishing team there. And then when I got out of college, I actually came back home to my hometown, went to work at a injection molding plastics factory. And I decided I was going to give the Bassmaster Opens 2 years, and I was going to see if I could qualify for the Bassmaster Elite Series. The first year, I think I finished 24th in points, something like that, which was not a bad year,
Right.
but didn't reach my goal of making the elites. The next year, the second year I fished the Opens, I actually won the Southern Opens Points Championship that year, and got my bid into the Elite Series in 2014. So um, that was it in a nutshell. Here I am, 8, 9 years later. Um, Man, it's been a wild ride, but it's been a lot of fun. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Man, I tell you, it's really been an exciting year for you. So take us back to the Harris chain back there, and you won the Open. What was that like? I mean, I mean, I know that was going. Then we're going to get to the blue trophy behind you right there, but tell us what happened with the Harris chain. That had to be a big boost, yeah, for you right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was actually the Kissimmee chain. I had a good
Kissimmee,
tournament at the Harris chain. Yeah,
man. I don't know
yeah,
why
it
I
was
said
the
Harris chain.
Kissimmee.
Kissimmee, yeah,
No, you're good. You're good. You're
yeah,
fine. I just wanted to. So you know, throughout my career, like I said, I've been a real consistent angler. I make checks a lot of the time. I'm not real good at tooting my own horn. I'm not trying to brag on myself, but you can look at the stats. I've had a great
yeah,
career up to this
right.
point, but winning has eluded me for whatever reason. You know, I've been so close a lot of times, got a lot of top 10 finishes. But you know, it was definitely kind of a monkey on my back because as a competitor, you want to feel that winning experience. I mean, that's what we strive for. That's why we do it. So at Kissimmee, at the Kissimmee Chain Open this year, that's a place that I've got some history with. I've actually finished third there in 2015. I finished second there in 2018, and finally was able to get it done there this year, man. And it was pretty cool how it all worked out, and it was great to get that. That was the very first tournament I fished this year, and to win it, I just feel like it set the tone for the year. You know, I'm just it calmed me down a lot. Not that I get real uptight about fishing anyway. I've learned it doesn't do you any good to stress over anything.
I was going to
But
say, now of all the guys I know that don't blow up and go crazy, you would have to be in the top three that I know are the calmest people I've ever seen on the water. I mean, honestly, and I'm not just saying that to you. You are. You're just kind of like, even keel stuff like that. I told somebody, I said, man, if Brandon Lester ever got mad at me, I don't know what I'd do. I'd run. You and Odd Depot. I mean, I'd be, I'd run. But you got a good demeanor, about you on the water. So
thank you, I appreciate that.
yeah, that was cool. So you won the Kissimmee
Yes.
tournament, and you got the big boost. You go into confidence. You come down to Pickwick, and man, that had to be. I mean, I remember I was kind of around there with your family. The whole week I was down there, and I talked to your mom, and I talked to a bunch of people, and I was just we're always pray for everybody, but man, we were really pulling for you on that one, and man, that was an exciting time. Walk us through What happened in the Pickwick tournament? What was that like?
Yeah, so just going back to my previous history with Pickwick, it's 2 hours from my house. So, all the Tennessee River chain is almost like home water to me. I've fished all of those lakes, and once you kind of understand how fish act on the Tennessee River, you can take it up and down the chain. So I've spent quite a bit of time on Pickwick over the years, and actually at the beginning of my career, I was not a very good ledge fisherman at all. And Pickwick and Gunnersville are the two lakes that I really learned how to ledge fish on. So I knew a little bit about it. Going there the first week of June, I knew it was going to be an offshore tournament. I pretty much knew that tournament was going to be won out off the bank, not necessarily deep, but it was going to be won offshore fishing ledges. So I was all in from day one. The first day of practice, I went out, probably found 7 or 8 schools of fish. Second day, probably found 7 or 8 more schools. But everything after that second day of practice, everything I had was community hole type stuff.
Right.
It was stuff that was pretty obvious. You can't hide anything from these Elite Series guys anymore, man. If it sticks out on a map, they're going to find it. That's just the way it is. So the third day, I told myself I wanted to find something that was a little more off the beaten path. I wanted to spend my day looking for something that maybe I might have to myself, because I knew that was going to be key for doing well in this tournament. And sure enough, I found a little shallow place, and I truly feel like looking in that shallower depth range is what won me this tournament, because I found something that only topped out in about 5 feet of water and rolled off into about 7 or 8 feet, which is a lot shallower than most of your traditional Tennessee River ledge holes. But luckily nobody else found it. And I kind of rode that little spot. And without that spot, I still feel like I could have had a good tournament, but I don't know if I would have been able to get the win. I mean, I was getting a phenomenal start on that spot every morning. The first day I caught 21.6 off of it, my entire bag. Wow. And then the next 3 mornings, days 2, 3, and 4, I caught at least 17 pounds off of it within the first hour of the morning. So getting off to a start like that is critical.
Yeah, that's got to take a lot of pressure off when you have your 21-pound sack right off the bat, and then you can kind of go.
Yeah.
So what do? Do you try to guard that spot, or did you go out and look for other places, after that, or what's the strategy there?
That was a big decision, and to be honest, after that first morning, because I didn't know how good the spot was going to be. When I found it, I caught 1 bass off of it, and I pulled my trolling motor up and I left. I said, well, I can see them sitting there on my graph. I know there's a bunch of them there. I get there the first morning and I catch 21.6 within the first hour, and I'm at a crossroads at this point. I'm like, do I sit here, put my poles down, and stay until I have to go back, or do I get out of here and hope and pray that nobody else finds the spot, nobody else fishes for these fish? And I looked around and there was nobody within eyesight of me that could figure me out. You know what I mean? I could see some boats way off in the distance, but I could tell nobody was close enough that they could really see what was going on. So I decided to leave it. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to spend, my goal was to get my job done pretty early every day and spend at least a couple of hours per day looking for tomorrow. Because when you start fishing for these ledge fish, they start moving around. I knew when people started fishing for those community holes that fish would start showing up on places that they had not been on in practice. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's a good point. I tell you, I've heard of guys doing, both ways, where they catch the big thing and then they move off. We're going to pause here. I just lost you on video. Oh, we got you back.
There we go. Sorry,
somebody
tried to call me.
Somebody tried to call. Yeah. I bet you do get a lot of calls. I bet they're calling you all the time, trying to do all this stuff. Well, man. And so what was it like? I mean, you'd won the Kissimmee and you got to hoist a trophy up, but you got the blue trophy. I know it was exciting for you because you took it everywhere you went. I mean, you took it down to the beach, you took it down to the deal. I saw it's been awesome watching the trophy travel, with you the whole time. But what was that like, that moment when Dave Mercer screaming your name, man, that you just won your first Elite Series title?
Man, it was just awesome. I think a lot of people want to be a professional bass fisherman, but I don't think most people understand how much work goes into it, and I'm not saying I work any harder than anybody else. But it is, I have worked hard at this, and this is my ninth year on the Elite Series. And to finally kind of see all that come to fruition and get to hold that blue trophy, and you get to a point where you don't want it. I didn't want it just for me. I want to win it for my family. I want to win it for my friends that are always there, whether I have a good tournament or a bad tournament. It's either, man, you did good this week, or man, you'll get them next time. I want to win it for those guys. It's not just me. And of course, my sponsors as well. I mean, at the end of the day, my success, sometimes, well, most of the time, hopefully it has an impact on their success as well. So you want to win it for your sponsors as well.
That's awesome, man. I tell you now, you're a family guy, and I brought something here to show your wife. Okay, this is my 1 gallon jug that I've been drinking every day. Because of her. She said drink a gallon a day. I've got a little ways to go today, but I'm trying to get on it and trying to get on the fitness wagon here, which is tough for an old guy like me. But it's been a lot of fun. So you tell her not to give up on me, because I'm but she's she's a fitness trainer, and man, at every single event that you guys go to, and it's just awesome, to see that. And so, well, what's cool, man, is you're a man of faith as well. Now, Kim told me you had kind of a God story in the, during the tournament. I mean, what happened there? What's going on with that?
I did, man. And it's the craziest things. I've been a Christian. I gave my life to Christ when I was 12 years old.
Tell us about that. Start there. You became a Christian at 12 years old. Wow.
Okay.
So you've been a Christian a long time.
So I grew up in church. Parents went to church for as long as I can remember. And people call it different things, getting saved, born again, ask Jesus into your heart, whatever. I asked Jesus into my heart at 12 years old. So I considered myself a Christian, but really at the age of 23 is really when it started meaning something to me.
Right. Yeah.
I was actually, as you know, I wear Romans 8:28 on my tournament jersey.
Right.
And that particular verse, for anybody who doesn't know, says God works all things for the good of those who follow him and are called according to his purpose.
Right.
The reason I wear that there is actually I had went to church on that Sunday morning. I was 23 years old, and the preacher was preaching about Romans 8:28. And he said a quote that day. When you're sitting there listening to the preacher and he says something, and it's like, bam, right to the heart.
This is for me.
Yeah. Well, he said something that day, and what he said was changed my life forever. It said, in anything that you do in life, if you try to push God out of it and try to be the big man and say, I've got this, I don't need anybody to help me, God will step aside and he'll watch you fall on your face, but he'll be there to pick you up when you get done. But when he said that, I said, that's me at 23 years old. That was me right there. And when he said that day, that was the winter after I had fished the first year on the Bassmaster Opens.
Right.
I was fixing to start fishing my second year on the Bassmaster Opens. And that day I told God, I said, if you'll take my career and take me wherever it's your will that you want me to go, that's where I'll go. If it's meant to be for me to be successful, I want you to be in control of it all. And you talked about me being calm, and you're not the first one to tell me that. Yeah. I think that's the whole reason why I can be that way, man. I mean, my faith means a lot to me. It really does. But
I got goosebumps, man. I've never heard that story. We didn't plan that out or anything. I mean, good night. That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Honestly, that's the first time I've ever really shared that story. I'm honestly, there's real outspoken Christians, and then there's people that tend to keep it more private. And I'm a pretty private guy about it, but I don't mind to talk about it. I've always just kind of been more about the relationship than than the religion, I guess you would
Right.
say. Religion
Yeah.
is important, don't get me wrong, but it's a relationship with Christ is
Right. Yeah.
what we all, strive for.
Yeah, that's right. I've heard it said before that religion is man trying to reach God, but a real relationship with Christ is Christ reaching down to us, and that's what you did.
Right.
You heard his voice. He says, "My sheep hear my voice," and he heard his voice, and you turned to him, and so it all kind of turned around for you when you said, "Hey, I want you to be the Lord of my life. I want you to be the one that's in
Yeah.
control of who
So
I am."
yeah. So to carry on that story, the next year after that day, things completely turned around that day. At that time in my life, I felt like I was a young man that didn't really know what his future held. I was working in a factory at a job that I knew I didn't want to do for a career. It was fine. There's no shame in any kind of job as long as it's
Right.
legal,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was at a place where I wasn't happy, and I knew what I wanted to do and where I needed to be. But that day, I turned it over to God, and He gave me exactly what I wanted. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. But getting back to I said all that to tell the story about
Yeah.
Pickwick.
Yeah.
Um, so the night of the third day of the tournament, I'm laying in bed, and obviously I'm a little bit anxious. I'm carrying a
Right.
3-pound lead going into
Yeah.
the final day. Um, and I'm laying there in the bed and I'm kind of praying and I'm kind of thinking about what my game plan for the next day and stuff, like a lot of people do. And I'm laying there and the thought comes to my mind, man, is this going to be my time? When's it going to be my time? Is this going to be my time?
Right.
And all of a sudden it was like, I didn't hear a audible voice. You hear people say, I
Yeah.
heard God speak to
Yeah.
me. And I can't honestly say that I've had that happen many times in my life, but it definitely happened. I heard
Wow.
4 words. It said, now is the time. It was like
Wow.
you hit me upside the head with it. I
Wow.
couldn't get it out of my head. It said, now is the time. And I went to sleep, probably the best night of sleep I've ever had. I didn't wake up the next morning until my alarm went off. We get out there the next morning. I don't really think a whole lot about it. I run up the river. I get to my first spot, and I'm telling you, Chris, on my first it was either my first or second cast, I hook a 4-pounder, and as soon as I set the hook on that fish, bam! It hits me upside the head. Now is the time. It was
Man.
unbelievable. At 1 o'clock that day, I told myself my goal all week was to catch 20 pounds a day. I had about probably 18 something. At 1 o'clock that day, I pulled up to a little spot and I was like, man, I need to catch a 5 or 6 pounder. I really feel like that'll be the nail in the coffin if I can catch a 5 or 6 pounder. I throw a scrounger out there, a bait that I'd not weighed a fish in on all week, and I caught a 513. And as soon as I saw how big that fish was, bam, it hit me upside the head again. Now is the time. It was the most unbelievable thing. I went on to weigh in the biggest bag of the entire tournament on that final day, 22-14. That was just it was
You know,
one of the most phenomenal. It was the most phenomenal day of my career. I knew in that moment it was meant to be for me to win that tournament.
man, what a story. I tell you what, now I'm telling you, I'm excited about this because we didn't plan this. We didn't plan. I just said, hey, I'm going to ask him, Kim says, when I ask him, but this is Randy Howell. Like, man, I'm telling you, this is like, now is the time. I'm seeing a whole, like, hey, t-shirt, the whole 9 yards. Now it's the time. That's awesome, man. God's working in your life like that. That's amazing. I'm glad she told me to ask you about that. What a great, great story that is. What a testimony. And I appreciate you, man. There are a lot of people that think they've got to be the rah Christian. And that's kind of how I am. I'm kind of like, God, let's go, some kind of pump people up and things like that. But it takes all kinds of people to reach, all kinds of people. And God made everybody's personality different, and he made it, unique. And your personality being calm and quiet, and, you don't have to be a rah guy, but at the same time, you're still willing to say, hey, Jesus is my Lord and God is at work in my life, man. And that's just awesome. That's an awesome story. I'm loving this, man. I tell you, I can't wait to, for this to get out. That's a great, great story. So you won the tournament and, everything's good. So let's move on to this right here. What would you tell us, the average guy that just wants to get better as a fisherman? What are 2 or 3 things that you give us to say, hey, if you want to get better as as an elite series angler, this is the advice I would give you to the average guy? What would you say?
The first and foremost thing I would say is spend as much time on the water as you possibly can. I see a lot of people these days, and I think it's just the society we live in. Everybody wants that shortcut. Everybody wants to be good at everything right now. And spending time on the water, there is no better way to get better, because you're going to see all these different situations that you're faced with on the water. And the more experience you have, the more you're going to be able to draw off of that. Another really thing that, if you notice, if somebody asked me, what's your fishing strength? I have a hard time answering that question, because I've done well in tournaments a lot of different ways. I try to be a versatile angler. And one of the ways that I became that versatile angler is I take each technique when I start trying to learn something new, and I try to just dial it in to a T. Like, figure out what's the best hook to use, figure out what's the best line size to use on that particular technique. Like, take the Ned rig, for instance. That's something that came along, 3 or 4 years ago. When I first started playing around with it, I wasn't near as proficient as I am now. I've learned that if you use really small braided line, make a longer cast than a lot of guys do. Play around. I use a Mustad Ned rig hook that's got a really good little hook in it, but there's some out there that don't have good hooks in them. Play around with each technique and really try to dial it in.
Man, that's good stuff right there. That is awesome. Awesome. Awesome stuff. I love it. So, we're going to come to the segment now, and I didn't break this on you, but, I do this at every one of my podcasts, and that's where we get you to do an impersonation of another angler. Can you pull that off for us? Let me tell you, while you're thinking about it, I know you're panicking. I like just springing this on people, but we've seen Tommy Biffle done. We've seen Andy Montgomery done. We've seen Edwin Evers done, Cliff Crochet, Charles Jochimson. We've seen him done. So have you got, who can you do your best impression of? Now, understand that when we're doing impersonations, that's the highest form of flattery. And so, who you got for us? Who would you try to do?
I guess Tommy Biffle would be the easiest one. You've probably heard that one a lot, but I'm not sure. What about Takahiro? Have you heard Takahiro?
No, we hadn't had Takahiro. Let's hear Takahiro.
Let's try Takahiro when he won the Classic. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
How many people, was that not the greatest moment in bass fishing? I mean, everybody knows that, I knew it. I knew it. That was awesome, man. I tell you what, he's a good one, man. Well, that's awesome. I tell you, I've enjoyed that so much. Well, one of the things that I want to make sure we get in is, where do we find Brandon Lester online? Well, what is your, tell the folks if they want to follow you. And I know, let me tell you, a bunch of people follow you, and I'm telling you, I think I know when that happened. At the St. Lawrence River, I think it was like 2018. You're up there and you hang a giant. And do you remember this deal? And you're fighting.
Absolutely,
that fish,
I remember.
And it gets off. I'm not laughing at you. I'm like, and I mean, it was like America and Canada felt your pain. I mean, it was just like, but you handled it like an absolute champ, man. You handled it like a champ. And I think that's when everybody that didn't know Brandon Lester, didn't know who he was, I think everybody became a Brandon Lester fan. That time, because that fish you probably won the tournament on that one. Yeah. Probably, yeah. I mean, it was a
I
pretty big
would have.
fish.
Yeah, I would have, but it's all good.
Yeah,
Everything happens for a reason, Chris.
that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, well, that's awesome, man. I tell you what, I love it.
But
Well,
no,
tell us where,
you can
yeah,
find me on
yeah,
Instagram, Brandon Lester Fishing, um, Facebook, Pro Angler Brandon Lester, and also on YouTube. The name of my channel on YouTube is Brandon Lester Fishing. So yeah, not on TikTok quite yet. I probably need to jump on board on that, but
yeah. I've
I
been
think I'm
hesitant
looking.
about the TikTok train myself. Getting up there.
Yeah,
Well, man, you got in your bio it says you're from Tennessee, but your favorite lake is Lake Champlain. Is that right? And
it
is
is.
that
Man, the first day I put my boat in on that place, I was like, bass, smallmouth and largemouth act the way a bass is supposed to act here. I mean, you can
wow?
literally go down the lake on Lake Champlain and see a spot and say, man, that looks good. I bet I can catch one right there. 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to catch one there. I mean, it's an amazing fishery.
It
And
really
there's a
is.
lot of good fisheries. There's a lot of good fisheries up north, but I really, really love Lake Champlain. I wish it was on the schedule every year.
I tell people all the time. I mentioned this with Buddy Gross. I'm trying to always get my guys from South Carolina to go up north with me. I say, hey, why don't we go and take a boat and spend some days? And they're like, I'm not driving 1,500 miles to go. I said, dude, you'll catch more in 2 days up there than you will the entire summer in South Carolina. You just will. I mean, it's just an amazing fishery. But we're heading up there next and heading out there. I'm excited about the schedule. I know you guys are too. We got, I believe, South Dakota and then going back to St. Lawrence and then heading over to La Crosse. And it looks like it's going to be a good time. And I can't wait to get, the season finished up, but I'm not looking forward to the gas prices, but hopefully something will happen where we get those gas prices down, real soon. But
I
man,
sure hope so.
I
I was
know it's
fishing
tough.
I was fishing with a friend of mine on Gunnersville yesterday, and he was like, "Man, did they not think about gas prices when they made y'all's schedule?" And I was like, "Well, in Bass's defense, gas wasn't $5 a gallon when they made
That's
this
right.
schedule a year ago, But it's all good. We'll all just keep on trucking, and we got a lot of good fishing left.
Yeah.
Angler of the year is looking good, and it's going to be a good rest of the season. I think. I just want to finish strong from here on out.
Yeah. I tell you what, man, I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to what you're going to do. Not only this year, but in the future. And we got a classic coming up. And, I know that you always get excited about that. I got a chance to jump in the truck with you. You rode me into the building, the last time up there and got me out of the heat. Cause I always tell people I'm the only white preacher in America that can out sweat TD Jakes. And so I'm always sweating, and you saved me yet again up there. But man, I appreciate you being on with me today. What an awesome story, and what an awesome year you're having. Just very excited for you, man. And I appreciate you taking the time to be on the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast.
Absolutely, Chris. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being at every tournament and everything you do for all of us guys. And you do a lot of good for a lot of people. And we appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Well, folks, that's a wrap on today. This is the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast, where faith and fishing hook up.